Okay.
We shall.
We shall indeed. And we are live. Shabbat Shalom to the folks in Cyberland.
Shabbat Shalom, everyone.
Shabbat Shalom.
Welcome. We're formulating. We're getting
Is
here.
that what we're doing?
Yeah. We'll make everyone who comes now sit in the front row.
There you go.
It's hard to imagine that in a round table, people could discover the second row, but here they are. Let's name them.
It's never good to sit in first row center. You get a stiff neck.
You know, I walked out without my hearing aids,
Oh.
so you're gonna have
Would
to.
you like mine?
It didn't help as much as mine helped. So green is, wait, no, it's red.
Red is.
Red, right.
Yes.
I always get this wrong.
How could you get
We
red, right?
have a new ritual in Judaism called the,
70% of his hearing.
It's not.
oh, I can hear you guys.
I could
They
probably.
cannot find
When
the
I
hearing
call for a
aids or-
silent
Yeah, I
meditation,
know, hard to
it's
find
gonna be a,
when you're that much deficient, yeah.
but basically everybody just takes out their hearing aid and there.
There we go.
All right. We are gathered to celebrate a auspicious Shabbat. Every Shabbat is auspicious. We are here at the foot of Sinai, about to receive the Ten Commandments. And we are in the presence of not only each other, but the divine. And one of the ways that we evoke the divine for Shabbat is to anoint one of our people to light the Shabbat candles. And we're going to teach the Shabbat melody because some of us are stuck in Hanukkah.
That's me.
So the cantor is going to sing the Shabbat melody for the lighting of the candles. We're going to rise, and Sherry, you're the person who's going to light the candles because you're there.
Okay.
Well, we should probably light them first. I'm sorry, I was very excited.
Yeah.
We sing with you or you?
You can sing as much as you like.
Um,
Yes, please do. And the folks at home, please sing along as well.
yeah, not too loud on the folks.
Baruch atah Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam asher kidshanu b'mitzvotav v'tzivanu lehadlikner shel Shabbat.
We join together in our Shabbat service, the opportunity.
Just a water bottle.
I thought people were already throwing things at each other. Just
No, I got
like
kicked
it's
out of my chair.
okay. Welcome. So we're going to begin with our first prayer, which allows us to begin the reception of the Sabbath, what we call the Kabbalat Shabbat, welcoming the Shabbat angels. Shalom Aleichem.
Shalom Aleichem, Malachei Hashaveh, Malachei Elyon, Mehi Melech, Malachei HaMelachim, HaKadosh Baruch melech malchei hamlachim hakadosh baruch hu.
We continue with the Psalms of the Kabbalat Shabbat with Shiru Ladonai on page 181 or
Three.
83. You have 183?
Just three.
Three.
Okay, three, just three.
Just three. Okay.
Sing a song to the divine.
Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai shir hadash. Let's say that again. Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru Ladonai shir hadash. Sing unto God, all the earth, a new song. I will sing unto God a new song. Sing unto God, and we'll all sing along. All the earth a new song unto God. Shiru Ladonai kol haaretz. Shiru, shiru Ladonai. I will sing unto God a new song.
Mizmor Shiru Ladonai Shir Chadash, which is that in your booklet as well?
Yes, it should be.
It's the first line.
Yes, it's the first line.
Let's see. Why don't we do a little Mizmor Shir?
Okay, Mizmor Shir.
Let me just pull it out of the ether that is my backup songbook here.
Okay.
I feel like we need a little
We've
upbeat.
just been graced by the presence of Claudia, who's returned from Poland. I had the privilege of having a bowl of soup with her last night as she told us about her trip. And you may have to coax her just like
Just a little.
a little bit, and she'll share a little bit about her experience, research trip, but also much more than that for her. Welcome.
Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot la'Adonai, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon, ulezamer l'shimcha elyon. If you don't know this one, just clap along. Mizmor Shir Yom HaShabbat, Tov lehodot la'Adonai, ulzamer l'shimcha elyon,
Yes, we are no longer in Poland. We're going to continue with Lecha Dodi, the prayer that became the quintessential prayer of Kabbalat Shabbat, welcoming the image that we have of the Sabbath, which is Sabbath bride. But it has a nice double entendre for the month of February and this coming week. Lecha Dodi literally means "Come, my beloved," and could be a Valentine's song. I'm sure that there are many people who sing this in many registers with Spanish, yes, and then with an Italian aria.
Oh, yes. I was reading James Michener's The Source. For
Yes.
those of you who haven't read it, it's really quite wonderful. And there's a scene where he talks about an ultra-Orthodox synagogue, and they're there for Friday night, and 20 old men in hats and beards belt out 20 different versions of Lecha Dodi all at the same time, and it's still magical. I'm going to pull out a melody that I don't think we've used here before. Shana and I jokingly call this Nigun Pablo, because this was a nigun taught to us by one of her congregants, Pablo Lebedinsky. And hence Nigun Pablo. I don't remember where it's from beyond that, but it's pretty easy. So I'll do the little, not now, Jonah, it's Shabbos. That's it. You'll learn it because that's the only melody, and we're going to do it a lot. Lecha Dodi, Mikrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Nekabela. Lecha Dodi, Mikrat Kala, Pene Shabbat Nekabela. Shamor v'zachor b'diburecha. Welcome to Sabbath Bride. Oive Shalom, Teret Bala, Gam Besimcha Uvetzola, Toch Emuneh Am Segula, Boichala, Boichala.
Charles, inner chassid. I love it. Wonderful. The quintessential psalm for this day is, of course, Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat, a psalm that sings itself to the very day of the Sabbath, and it expresses the very word that remarks us as our spiritual selves, Tov L'Hodot. It is good to be in a posture of gratitude, not only a posture, but a genuine surrender to gratitude. As we sing, we praise, as we tell, as we are wrapped up in the possibility of faith, and we do so on a guitar, on a trombone if we have a trombone handy, on a baritone horn if we're stuck, but we do so with our souls. Mizmor Shir Liyom HaShabbat, a song to the Sabbath day.
And we will pick it up at the bottom at the indentation. Satika Tama Yifra Geretz Balvanon Yizkes Shetuli Evet Adonai Tchatzron Eloheinu Yafridu Od Yenuvon V'Sela Desheim Meranim Iyu V'Hagim Ki Yashar Adonai Tzuri V'Lo
We recite the Chetzi Kaddish, leading us into the Baruch Hu.
And if I may borrow the Siddur for a moment, please, Rabbi?
Sure.
Thank you so much. Yitgadal v'yitgadash Shemei Rabba.
Amen.
Be'alma divrei cherotev yamlich malchutei. B'chaye chol yomecha. U'chaye chol beit Yisrael. Bagala, bagala. U'bizman karim. V'himeru. Amen. Yehi Shmei Rabba levarach. Ve'alam ulal me'al naya. Yitbarach v'yishtabach, Yitbar v'yiramav v'yanaseh, Yitladar v'yidalel, Yithalal, Shemei v'kurisha v'echu, Ve'elam kol birchata v'shirata, Tush v'chata v'nechemata, Damiram be'alma, Ve'imeru. Amen.
We rise and face the east as we join together for the Baruch Hu.
Baruch Hu et Adonai, Amevorach. Baruch Adonai, Amevorach, Amevorach,
to whom all praise is due. Praise is Adonai, to whom all praise is due, now and forever. Are you seated? We turn to the prayer that celebrates the orderliness of nature, which the ancients and we do often take as a reference to the sense of being in a friendly world, except when it's not so friendly. As we discovered this week with the terrible tragedy in the Syria-Turkey border. As we were leaving tonight, the report was of some 23,000 people that had perished. And we are left with the recognition that there is an orderliness, but sometimes it's terrifying and deadly orderliness that frankly is not remote from that part of the world. Yours truly was once a geology major, and that particular fault goes right through the Dead Sea, and it has been the moving in places that we know as Beit Sha'an and so forth. The geography of the Middle East is impacted along that fault line. And in case you didn't hear, the San Andreas Fault has not been repealed. And it is, at the moment when something like this happens, I have two instincts. One, how do you translate your heartbreak and concern for others, especially the people who in the first days you would like to rescue, and those that then who remain, especially in this bitter cold. But the second becomes self-preservation. What have I done to prepare myself, my family, and my loved ones for the eventuality of what are the realities of earthquakes? I won't tell you what I read in the science report from the New York Times this week. It'll just ruin your Shabbos. But nevertheless, we celebrate this wonderful world, that if we can learn to live in harmony with it, which is what this prayer suggests, we have a great sense of the majesty of this world. So we recite together in English. Blessed are you, Adonai, our God, ruler of the universe, who speaks the evening into being, skillfully opens the gates, thoughtfully alters the time and changes the seasons, and arranges the stars in their heavenly courses according to plan. You are creator of day and night, rolling light away from darkness and darkness from light, transforming into day, night, distinguishing one from the other. Adonai Tzebaot is your name. Everlasting God, may you reign continually over us to eternity. Blessed are you, Adonai, who brings on evening.
El Chai v'Chayam, Midim Loch Aleinu Leolam Va'ed, Baruch Atah Adonai, Ha'ma'ariv Haravim.
Amen. Ahavat Olam, our Cantorial chant.
Ahavat Olam, Beit Yisrael, Ahavta, Torah u'mitzvot, chukim u'mishpatim, otanu limadeta. Al ken Adonai Eloheinu, B'shochenu v'kumenu, אהבתך אל תסיר ממנו לעולמים. ברוך אתה אדוני אוהב עמו ישראל.
Doing a survey tonight. How many of you were raised in a home where you were taught to say the Shema at bedtime? Just curious.
We did the
Anybody?
Hashivenu
You
At
did,
bedtime?
at bedtime. I mean, yeah, granted, we lie down.
your parents taught you? Okay. Okay. Anybody?
Wow.
So secret, neither was I. Okay.
That's what your mother did.
My mother did it.
Mm.
Yeah. She didn't teach us. Thank you for reminding me. The source of truth. Kriya Shema, as she would refer to it in Yiddish, not Kriyat Shema, but Kriya Shema. And our kids, and especially our grandkids, are being raised with this prayer. Has it changed their life? And I have to say that they're kids, so it's hard to know what the direction is of this kind of teaching. But I have a sense that their sense of presence in life and their sense of being accompanied in life is very powerful. And so I'm writing a prescription. Rabbis write prescriptions only on Friday night, Saturday morning. I would urge you to not only recite Shema with us when you come to shul, but to recite it when you are about to go to bed. It's better than melatonin or whatever else you're taking. And it's a way of connecting to something that I think is powerful, and the sense of knowing that we're resting in the oneness that we're a part of. And so we join together as we recite the Shema.
Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad. Baruch Shem Kevod Malchuto Leolam Vaed. ואהבת את אדוני אלוהיך בכל לבבך ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודך, והיו הדברים האלה אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם. שבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך ובשוכבך ובקומך, וקשרתם להיות על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך, למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Amen. We recite the English that begins with the words, all this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us. Let's join together. It's on page 6.
They may not have that, Rabbi.
You don't have it? I'm going to recite it for you in case.
Thank you, Rabbi.
This is something you should listen to. Sorry you don't have it. Next edition. All this we hold to be true and trustworthy for us. You alone are our God, and we are Israel, your people. You are our sovereign and Savior, who delivers us from oppressors' hands, saves us from tyrants' fists. You work wonders without number, marvels beyond count. You give us life and steady our footsteps. You perform miracles for us before Pharaoh, signs and wonders in the land of the Egyptians. You led our people Israel out from their midst to freedom for all time. When your children witnessed your dominance, they praised your name in gratitude, and they accepted your sovereignty. Moses, Miriam, and all Israel sang to you together, lifting their voices joyously.
Amen. Sorry, I had to remember how this one goes. Mi chamocha ba'elim Adonai, mi kamocha nedar hakodesh, nora tehilot, osef eleh, malechotecha ra'u v'necha, kehayam lifnei Moshe u'Miriam, Ze'eli, anu ve'ameru, Adonai yimloch le'olam va'ed. V'ne'emar ki vada Adonai et Yaakov, uge'alo mi'hachazak mimenu. Baruch atah Adonai, Gal Yisrael.
The prayer that Roger used to say as a child, and we're going to say together, Hashkivenu, is really the beautiful nighttime prayer that we recite each evening. And some people do recite it with the Shema. I'd never heard it being recited as part of the Shema, but it's beautiful. Usually people, the kids would recite Hamalach HaGo'eloti Yig'al Otami. The angel that will redeem us will redeem me as well. It's a beautiful kicker to the Shema that the kids recite. And of course, those people who love the pun in Hebrew say instead of Hagalach, Hamalach, they say Hagalach, which is the priest. Anyway, the punning in Hebrew is not yet on the Friday night. Please don't break your glasses. Yeah, they cost a lot of money, and he's not going to be happy with that. Please join us in the Hashkivenu and Cantor.
Hashkivenu Adonai Eloheinu l'shalom, l'shalom, v'hamidenu malkeinu l'chaim.
guard us from all harmful things. O Adonai, keep us safe throughout the night, till we wake with morning's light. Teach us, God, wrong from right. Amen. 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 Amen.
The Sabbath takes on a special meaning for us because so much of our lives are driven by, if not economic necessity, sometimes the repetitiveness of life, the idea that we move from one thing to another, and the Sabbath is there as a marker for us to pause, to breathe, to reflect, and to take seriously the wonder of creation, the meaning of what it means to be liberated from work, and the possibility that we can ensoul ourselves on this day of the Sabbath. I have to say that the last Shabbat, when we had our Tu B'Shvat Seder, we had a profound, I think, experience. Later on tonight, we're going to continue just a little part of the Seder. We have parsley plants for people, parsley seeds for the brave and intrepid who are not afraid to go from seeds to, and you're supposed to plant them immediately after Shabbat so that they'll be ready for the Seder. In some years, we've provided horseradish, but that is a non-starter here. Nobody likes to have tiers of horseradish, so you have to buy your own. And this year, we're adding the great possibility as a result of the horticultural capabilities of our cantor. We have in front of us these beautiful etrogim, and everybody's going to get a slice of the etrog to put in your jar. You'll be given a kosher small quantity of potato vodka because you would not want to be using rye or wheat vodka on Passover when you're going to open this jar up. It's clear that the only vodka that was available for Passover usually was the potato vodka until I discovered my liquor cabinet, and I didn't bring it tonight, but I have pineapple vodka.
Oh, good heavens.
And I was going to ask some great authority on kashrut if I could use that to make my etrog.
No.
You think it would be mixing kinds?
I think
Too
actually
flavors, too much
because
acid.
the big problem with it is the yeast that is used to start the vodka, unless it's Pesach vodka, the yeast almost always comes from either bread or beer stock. And therefore, those teeny tiny little yeasts could have little tiny specks of bread in their tummies.
I'm going to check on that. I'm going to, because
Tiny
the
specks of what?
Bread.
you know, you have to get this going. And the other thing you have to do once you have your jar of a little bit of etrog and a little bit of potato vodka. You have to put in some sugar.
Yes.
And that will get it going, so that instead of just the humble whatever proof, what do you have there?
And 80 proof.
80
You know,
proof.
it's
You know,
the,
we can bump it up.
yeah.
But since it'll be an ounce or two that you'll have, maybe three,
Maybe 3.
you'll be safe, and you're not driving anywhere during the Seder anyway, at least unless the Messiah is coming, and then we're going by what's known as Fitzat Derech. You know this concept in Chal? You should know. We talked about it.
Is that
Huh?
the
It's-
rolling?
Huh?
The rolling?
Well, no, the rolling is, no, hopefully they're not rolling.
Rolling is if you have more than 4 ounces of vodka.
No, there's a Hasidic idea that actually precedes Hasidism a bit, but you notice in the Bible that they'll start off a story and they'll say, and he arrived at wherever place he was going. He arrived at Padam Aram, or he arrived at such and such. And there's no, like, they stopped at 7-Eleven and they got Coke, or nothing about what happened along the way. It's just, so the rabbis developed this idea that when you're on a holy mission, doesn't take any time, that the road collapses in front of you and you take the step and all of a sudden you're in the next place. So this is sort of the equivalent of the Jewish, you can't call it a time machine, but you call it a transport machine. And so with the arrival of the Messiah, according to some versions, you can have a Fitzat Derech. And we'll all gather at, some of you are going to be in Jerusalem. I'm actually going to be in Yosemite. Oh,
Not bad.
but everybody's got to pick up a temple somewhere.
There you go.
Did you put in a request?
Huh?
Did you put in a request
Sure.
for Yosemite? Is that?
Like you do a GPS, you know.
Oh,
You know.
that's all right.
Anyway, V'shamru, we will observe the Sabbath.
ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. ביני ובין בני ישראל עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם, עוד היא לעולם. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. כי 6 ימים עשה אדוני את השמיים ואת הארץ, ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם. וביום השביעי שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש, שבת וינפש. ושמרו בני ישראל את השבת, לעשות את השבת לדורותם ברית עולם.
We rise for the Amidah. We're going to recite the first 3 prayers together and then invite people to recite the rest of the Amidah in their own meditative way as we come together for the Amidah. Cantor?
Adonai sefetai tivtach ufi agita hilatecha Adonai, open up my lips, that my mouth may declare your praise. Baruch atah Adonai, Eloheinu, Elohei Avotenu Kimoteinu, Elohei Abraham, Elohei Yitzchak, Elohei Yaakov, Elohei Sarah, Elohei Rivka, Elohei Rachel, Elohei Leah. El Hagadol, Hagibor, Hanora, El Elyon, Gomer Chasadim Tovim, Bekonei Hakol, Bezocher Rasei Avot Ve'imahot, Umevii Geula Livnei Bneihem, Leman Shemo Ve'ahava, Melech Ozer U'Moshir U'Magen. Baruch atah Adonai, Magen Avraham, Ezrat Sarah. אתה גיבור לעולם אדוני, מחייך הכל אתה, רב להושיע, משיב הרוח ומוריד הגשם, מכלכל חיים בחסד, מחיי הכל ברחמים רבים, סומך נופלים ורופא חולים, ומתיר אסורים, ומקיים אמונתו, משני עפר, מי כמוך בגבורות, ומדרום הרוח, מלך לקידום חיי, ומצמיח ישועה. בני המן אתה לחיות הכל, ברוך אתה אדוני, מחיי הכל. אתה קדוש ושמך קדוש וקדושים בכל יום יהללוך סלע. ברוך אתה אדוני האל הקדוש.
We continue individually.
Shalom Rab, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Shalom Rab, Yisrael Amcha, Tasim Leolam. Ki ata hu melech haTov, lechol hashalom. Ki ata hu melech haTov, lechol hashalom. Shalom rab al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. Shalom rab al Yisrael amcha, tasim leolam. וטוב בעיניך לברך את עמך ישראל בכל עת ובכל שעה בשלומך. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. שלום רב על ישראל עמך, תשים לעולם. תשים
This evening, I had wanted to speak to you about an aspect of the Torah portion. Many of you received a little bit of a teaser on what I wanted to say. It deals with the fact that we have a concept in Judaism that is emphasized in this week's Torah portion. And it's this idea that the Torah was given to Moses at Sinai. And it is seen as an expression of the idea that it is imagined by Jewish tradition that at least the Ten Commandments, and according to most conceptions of what you will hear from Orthodox colleagues, not only the Ten Commandments, but the first 5 books of the Bible, what we call the Torah, were handed to Moses at Sinai. At some later time, the oral tradition was given to the Jewish people. That is, what they commented upon from the time Moses received the written scrolls all the way to the time when they began writing down some comment around the year 200 CE. We refer to this doctrine of the Torah being received from Sinai, Torah mi Sinai, as one of the central ideas that is meant to suggest the veracity and the verity of the Jewish tradition. As I told you in the story about my experience with the idea of Torah from Sinai, it is an idea that has taken hold in certain parts of our community in a very strong way. And it is now understood as a kind of doctrine or question that is asked of people about whether they are kosher enough Jews to participate in things like witnessing a wedding ketubah, wedding document, whether they are to be trusted to speak in a court situation, especially a religious court. And the question will be asked, do you believe in Torah mi Sinai? My experience of this was rather early in my career when I was asked, and this was the time when I was much more observant. I did not drive on Shabbat. Of course, we kept a kosher home. I was asked, do you keep a kosher home? Yes. Do you drive on Shabbat? No, we don't drive on Shabbat. Do you believe in Torah mi Sinai? And I said, no. I was disqualified for being a judge. And I have to say that my entry into the idea of what the literalism was not too far from the other half of what I wrote you about, was the great impact the movie, The Ten Commandments, had on my understanding of what happened at Sinai. And I know for certain that Moses looked exactly like Charlton Heston, that Edward G. Robinson is the quintessential Fink. Yul Brynner is exactly the person that looks like Pharaoh. And I have seen that on the walls of all the pharaonic material. And so I had acquired, if you will, a kind of literalism that had been enforced upon me as a child by what was, for our generation, a relatively new thing, film. The picture of what was Sinai was pretty much the wonderful movie, The Ten Commandments. So much so that for the 20 years that I was a rabbi on campus, on Shavuot, we watched the Ten Commandments every year.
You were that devout.
That was that devout. But it got me to thinking about the question of literalism and how literalisms take over our lives, and how our tradition in its best moments has fought against literalisms. To quote Abraham Joshua Heschel, if the Torah from Sinai stories are literal, then Judaism will wither. And we all know that at a certain point in the development of human history, the document that we call the 5 books of Moses were put together by many hands that were put together and were shaped by many historical moments. And we call that the literary hypothesis, or how the Torah was put together. Some of us have studied it in school, called JEPD. Well, in the 19th century, when this began to be talked about a lot, there grew a reaction, not only amongst our Protestant brothers and sisters, but among Jews themselves, to this idea that the Torah was somehow put together by various strands. Amongst Protestants, they came up with the idea of biblical inerrancy, that every part of the Bible was absolutely to be defended because it was accurate in every detail. 6 days of creation. Don't bother me with the details of dinosaurs or dinosaur bones or theories of evolution. And we will defend the Bible. When I was a student, high school, college for short, those ideas receded. That kind of literalism receded. In the last 30 years, I would say, they have come to the fore again. And we're now in an era where biblical literalism, at least in its Protestant version, has come to the fore. And what I think we're now at, in terms of the Jewish community, is a profound struggle with that question in a different way. Our biblical literalism is around the question of Israel. What are the boundaries of the land of Israel that God gave? Did you check the Bible? Let me do some work for you. There's at least 37 versions of what the boundaries are for the land of Israel. So it's clear that there is a claim, but there's actually no boundary markers. There's no real a firm sense of, you go to this place and where the big stone is, that's something else, and then the other side is Israel. We've been involved in the last 50 years in a struggle that has begun since the 6-Day War and is now threatening to split the state of Israel. In part, it's over the question of what are the literal boundaries of the land of Israel. Is there room for anyone else to be living in the land of Israel? Does the Declaration of Independence, which promised a place and a respect for the diversity of the people living in the state to exist. And now it's come down to what I'm sure all of you have read about in the last 4 weeks. Masses of people in Israel on Saturday night and on Sundays in demonstrations that I think you need to understand, if they were as big, comparing our population to the Israeli population, would be in the numbers of around 5 to 8 million people. We've never seen anything like that in America. Clearly, the Israeli polity is struggling. It's struggling over something that has already been encapsulated into a struggle over the question of, will democracy survive? Will there be a system of checks and balances? The so-called reforms put forward in what I call Orwellian language by the Prime Minister of Israel are in fact the undermining of democracy. It is the suggestion that Israel will end up going the way of Poland and Hungary, where there is a permanent legislative body that overrules permanently the judicial system, no checks and balances, and no minority rights at all. Essentially an ethno-nationalism of the sort that we see in Eastern Europe. This Monday, there is a call for a national strike in Israel. And the people that I read, and they're very serious people that been writing for 20 and 30 years in Haaretz. By the way, most of these articles are translated into English, so you can read them yourselves. In the last 2-3 days have written the following. I used to believe that there could not be a civil war in Israel. Now I think there can be. So in part, I believe that we've come to this pass because of a kind of literalism that we have adopted in our national aspiration. I am thoroughly a Zionist. I cannot imagine Jews after the 20th century choosing to be without a passport and all that a national entity brings. I think it's something that people cannot imagine without having a possibility of things like the right of return and the possibility of being in a state like the state of Israel. I'm a cultural Zionist in that I think that people need to understand the Hebrew language and educate their children in that language, and that there is no substitute for having Hebrew and a thorough Hebrew culture in the diaspora as well as in the state of Israel. And I do not think that you can unilaterally withdraw from the necessity to have an army. But what we are about to face is something that is beyond anything that we've ever seen. 4 o'clock tomorrow, we're going to have a Zoom session with people. I don't know how many people will show up. I've invited some experts to speak about what they see, mostly Israelis, because it's mostly Israelis that have raised this question. And 11 o'clock on Sunday, there's going to be a gathering in the federal building in Westwood. This is part of some 40 demonstrations that are taking place outside of the land of Israel, in places like Basel and San Francisco and Chicago and all over the world. Mostly organized by expat Israelis inviting American or whatever country the Jews are from to join with them. if you have any inkling left that there should be a Jewish state, and that that's a positive thing, this will be your last chance to have a voice in that. And I invite you to come and listen tomorrow to the Zoom. And I invite you to consider doing something that most of us are not comfortable doing anymore, and that is coming for 1 hour. You'll get home in time for the Super Bowl. To stand with expat Israelis and American Jews that love Israel and wish there to be the one institution that is the check on the Israeli Knesset, which is the Supreme Court, which is about to be completely undermined. There are other parts of the so-called reform. I don't want to go into them tonight. But I would argue that it is our duty to always ask the question, does our literalism about nationalism, does our literalism about reading the Torah, does our literalism about whatever it is, create the inability to see that there's another way to understand it? I was part of that young cohort of people that were volunteers in 1967 that transformed Jewish life. Before 1967, and all of us in this room are able to remember that, I don't think there were too many Jews that walked around with a yarmulke on. I don't think that there were what I would call overt public expressions of Jewish life. Judaism was a matter of the home and the synagogue. And that sense of pride and that sense of confidence emerged as a result, not only in Israel, but in every place in the world as a result of what happened in 67. But also with it emerged is an ethno-nationalism that is threatening to engulf us in the destruction of the democracy, and has been involved in a political direction that is ultimately, I think, impossible. We cannot rule over another people. So, how do we get from this to Sinai? I think that one of the things that we were able to do was that we were able to take the best thinking of the time and to understand, as Maimonides did, that the Torah speaks in the language of human beings. In order for the Torah to be understood, it had to describe the thunder and the lightning and everything to make an impression. But did Maimonides believe that there was thunder and lightning at the time of Sinai? No. But generations of Jews understood that there was something that happened that was inspiring, that was worth contemplating, that was worth passing on, that resulted in what we symbolically call the Ten Commandments. And that the symbolic nature of the Ten Commandments was part of that system that we call the Torah that has inspired generations. Generations that were creative in their approach to fostering Jewish life. And we need to return to that both in our religious life and in our political life. I wish you a good Shabbos. I wish you the opportunity to join us if you can, for whatever part of this that you can. We turn to our Mishaberach for those people who are ailing, and invite people, if you'd like to share the name of whoever is in your heart that needs a prayer of healing. Polly?
My sister Pat Sachs.
Thank you.
Andy Hyman.
Pardon, Andy?
Andy
Yeah.
Hyman and,
Who's doing well, may he only continue.
Good.
and Edward Hyman.
Edward, I'm sorry?
Edward Hyman.
Edward Hyman. Okay,
My brother Stuart Paul.
thank you.
Harry Rabbi.
Elaine Crispy?
Larry? Lynn?
Marla Rosenthal and Richard Atkins.
My wife, Missy Schwartz, and my older son, Isaiah Schwartz.
First, we'd like to call to mind the many people tonight who are struggling with the effects of the earthquakes in Turkey and Syria. And we recognize the necessity to not only pray, but to contribute towards their welfare.
Claudia, did you have a name?
Gina Papa and Dan Spivey.
Thank you. From the internet, we have Michael Hyman. I will add my mom, Ellen, my little sister, Anna, Rabbi Steve Robbins, Rabbi Craig Wyckoff, Rabbi Mordechai Finley, and all of those who have.
Let me add one more
Yes.
person, Rabbi Jerry Goldstein. Yeah.
Up on the screen if you don't have the words in front of you.
May the source of strength, who bless the ones before us, help us find the courage to make our lives a blessing, and let us say, Amen. Mishaberach imotenu mekor habracha ve'avotenu. Bless those in need of healing with refuah shlema, the renewal of body, the renewal of spirit, and let us say, Amen.
We turn to the Aleinu.
עלינו לשבח לאדון הכל, לתת גדולה ליוצר בראשית, שלא עשה כגויי הארצות, ולא שמענו משפחות האדמה, שלא שכחנו כהם, וגורלנו ככל העולם. ואנחנו קוראים ומשתחווים ומודים לפני מלך מלכי המלכים הקדוש ברוך הוא. ונאמר והיה אדוני למלך על כל הארץ, ביום ההוא יהיה אדוני אחד, ושמו
This time I'd like to invite everybody to be seated. Claudia, could you give us maybe a short, just share a little bit about your trip and what you did and so forth? Why don't you come here, because you'll be near the microphone. Yeah, sit there.
So I'm going to just talk about the shelter part.
Okay.
So the, I developed this project a long time ago that to me seemed very relevant. I'm a psychologist, and as soon as the war began in Ukraine, my project is in two forms, a book and an app. I thought that the app could be helpful to refugees at that point in the beginning. And as that idea of getting it to the women and children refugees, as it was evolving, or devolving actually, it got to the point where I got feedback that my project could be dangerous for the refugees. So at that point, Chaim called me and I talked to him about that. And I said, I need to go to Poland. I need to just be with children and present the book, and let's see what happens. So finally the trip happened. And Jonathan Mills, who's the person who's created all the centers for refugees, he actually, so my project is in English and Spanish, not in the languages of Ukrainians. And Jonathan Mills, my idea was just to sit on the floor with children with the book, but he had it translated into Ukrainian. And on February 1st, a Ukrainian psychologist and Jonathan Mills and a photographer and I and another woman went to a shelter, and refugee shelter, and we went to one of their just incredibly beautiful classrooms for young children, just beautifully set up. And they set up a circle time piece of fabric with built-in pillows. I've never seen such an elaborate circle time setup. And the Ukrainian psychologist presented the book to children and staff, and she did such a beautiful job. So that's but it landed in my mind.
Can you say what the
That's the
book
story.
was again? I didn't hear it.
The book, the title is, it's an illustrated book for young children and parents, and it's Duck Story.
It's what?
D-U-C-K, a duck, D-U-C-K.
Oh.
The characters are ducks, and the title is Introduction, it's a pun, to very, very big feelings. So it's very short. I can tell you the text. It's, everyone has feelings. Feelings are a good thing. Sometimes our feelings get big. Sometimes our feelings get very big. Sometimes our feelings get very, very big. Sometimes when our feelings are very, very big, grown-ups may get upset. So that's the word I don't like, tantrum. When your feelings are very, very big, you need grown-ups to help you. Mommy or daddy can comfort you. Mommy, daddy, or other grown-ups can play with you. Mommy, daddy, or other grown-ups can put your very, very big feelings into words. This will help you. So that was read, but more than read. A Ukrainian psychologist was so dramatic, and at least two of the children responded really strongly to it, and others were paying attention.
Two of the children, what?
We're very engaged.
We're not engaged.
We're very, very engaged.
At some point, we'll maybe show them the video that was taken.
Yeah.
Oh.
So, but it, I feel it landed. So,
That's wonderful.
How long a session was this?
I'm not sure. It was not long. I mean, maybe 20 minutes.
How many children were involved?
Not that many, because it was early in the day and some of them were still sleeping.
Uh-huh.
So I would estimate 5, 6 children. So it was not a large group.
Why were they thinking it might be dangerous?
I have no idea.
Huh.
We have a private thought that it wasn't their idea.
About how old were the children? What ages?
About 5 and under.
So the Ukrainian psychologist is going to continue?
Well, I don't know, but I'm
presenting this, or-
trying to encourage it. She was enthusiastic and so was someone else.
Good.
So what, I have a minute more? So I had traveled with a duck finger puppet, but in the heat of the moment, I had failed to produce it. So in the end, when we were saying goodbye, I found my duck puppet. So I asked, do you want to have it? And they said, the person said yes. So I found out from the person who gave me the duck puppet that she said, because I said I need to get more. And she said, well, we need to go to the dinosaur farm. And I asked, what's the dinosaur farm? So it's a toy store in South Pasadena. So I plan to go there on Monday and buy a bunch of those and send them to
great.
Poland to encourage further use after.
There's a dinosaur park of sorts around Mason Avenue and Victory here. Huge, tremendous dinosaurs.
Wow.
We went there.
Huh?
We went there with our grandkids.
Amazing.
That's wonderful.
We invite everybody to ask Claudia about this more during the Onig and during the.
Okay.
Just- Thank you for
Thank you.
doing this.
Yes, thank you.
We're going to invite people to share with us names of people that they're reciting Kaddish for. There are people who have been.
My mom.
Edith Balvanoff. Other names? Mikiko.
Mikiko Lowenthal and Diane Warco.
Other names, people who are reciting.
Oh, Sylvia Atkins, too.
Sylvia Atkins. Invite everybody to rise for Kaddish. Yitgadal v'yitgadash shemei Rabbi, v'yamad yivrach chirutei, v'yamlich malchutei, v'chaye echon v'nei echon, v'chaye d'chol Beit Yisrael, v'agla v'zman karim v'yimru amen. Yehi shmei Rama v'barak, v'lom urmei almayim. Yitbarach v'yishtabach v'yitpa'ar, v'yitmam v'yitnaseh, v'yitadar v'yitamer v'yitamal, shmei kudashah v'richu, le'ela kol birchata v'shirata, tushkahata v'nechamata, damiram v'yalma v'imru amen. Shalom Rabbi Shammai, v'chaim aleinu el Yisrael, imru amen. Aseh shalom v'broma, hu ya'aseh shalom, aleinu ve'al kol Yisrael, imru amen. May the one who makes peace in the heavens make peace for those who mourn, and let us say.
Amen.
Amen.
Please be seated. And Cantor, before we have kiddush and a little challah, something to eat, and then we'll spread out here on the table to make sure that everybody has the accoutrements that they need to get in the Passover frame of mind. See, we're thinking ahead.
I also have to add that I brought chocolate.
Polish chocolate.
Good, good. Thank you. Thank you so much. Polish chocolate is very good, by the way. That's reserved for the rabbi.
And you should have said it's terrible, and you would take it off our hands.
No, I want to tell the truth. We're just reading the Ten Commandments.
That's true. No bearing false witness about Polish chocolate. I understand.
Right.
Lying about Polish chocolate.
Yeah. I'm going to lie about bigger things.
That's
What are we gonna,
Well, as you requested, I think we should continue what we started with a little Olam Chesed.
oh, yes, please.
And I think we should do a few rounds through it with some different, with a little Shalom and a little
So
Tzedek.
for people that were not part of the Tu B'Shvat Seder, there is a rabbi who was at Berkeley for many years. His name I'm forgetting at this moment, who wrote this song. It's a nigun, Olam Chesed Yivanav, I will build a world of mercy. The words are beautiful and the melody is, and we add different words, Chesed, Shalom, so forth.
Olam Chesed Yivaneh, Yalalai, Olam Chesed Yivaneh, Yalalai, Olam Chesed Yivaneh, Yalalai, Olam Chesed Yivaneh, I will build this world from love. this world from peace. Yalalai, and you will build this world from peace. And if we build this world from peace, then God will build this world from peace.
Shalom.
Shabbat shalom. Shabbat shalom to all of our friends out there. May you have a beautiful, sweet evening and a beautiful day tomorrow.
Shabbat shalom. We'll send you your